Hey guys, welcome back to the Kampai Sugai podcast. We have a very special episode for you guys today. As you can see, we have the lieutenant governor candidates or Republican candidates for lieutenant governor. We have Mr. Tae Kim, we have Mr. Seaula Tupa'i Jr., and we have Mr. Rob Burns right here. Thanks for joining me. This is pretty interesting. This is probably the most people I've had on the set so far. So this is pretty cool. And today we're doing a Talk Story Q&A. Very different than a regular debate or a forum that you guys may have seen. But you know, I'll explain some of the rules when we get there. But for now, let's start off with some introductions and then why you guys are running for lieutenant governor. So, Mr. Kim.
Thank you. It's great to be here with our Republican candidates for lieutenant governor. My name is Tae Kim. I'm running for lieutenant governor because I honestly believe that Hawaii is underrepresented by one party and overrepresented by the other. History of Hawaii has always been it's all about blue. 95%, 96% of all public office is being held or has been held and continue to be held by Democrats. And there's really been nothing that's been accomplished, basically. And what the Democrats have been very successful at in being the predominant party in state of Hawaii has been a handout. We've always been a handout state. Handout benefits nobody. It keeps people in place. It keeps homeless people in place. It keeps complacency in place. And it keeps entitlement with the establishment in place. And what does that lead to? That leads to corruption. That leads to entitlement. We need hand up. And Republican Party is all about hand up. I'm not far right. I'm not nowhere far right. I'm not for far left. I'm for moderate and progressive Republican. We need to make a difference. We need to have a voice in state of Hawaii. For the Republicans, hand up. We need to give people more opportunity to get out of their rut that they're in. It's not a matter of giving out handouts to keep people in place, but rather giving people more opportunity. My name is Tae Kim. As a profession, I'm a 30 years defense attorney. This is my second run for public office. And I'm hoping to run and make a difference and encourage young people who are not in establishment, to run, young and old, people who are not connected to politicians and politics, to run, because it's no longer enough just to vote. You gotta be a candidate. You gotta put your name on the ballot. You gotta make a difference. It is your civic duty as an American to put your name on the ballot, make a difference, make your voice be heard. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kim. Mr. Tupa'i, please give us a little introduction about yourself and why you're running for lieutenant governor.
Aloha, Junior Tupa'i, running for lieutenant governor too. You know, just want to offer another option. That's all. You know, it's not about the party, it's about the people. People should be first. That's it. Yep.
Awesome. And Mr. Rob Burns?
Same as him. Hey, no, seriously. I just running because I'm 70 years old and I got a few more years to live, and I want to make a change. And the change has got to come within. I believe Mr. Kim when he says that you got to run for office. I never wanted to run. And I wasn't going to run until I heard that BJ Penn was going to run. And I know that when I had my business, which was Local Motion, I started it, I founded it, and I hired all the people. And I found the best results were fighters, wrestlers, people that could take pain, and they like to work really hard. So that's why I was excited. I never really knew BJ before this. You know, my daughter knew him from fighting.
Mm-hmm.
She was a fan, and I quick became a fan of his when I met him because he was such a fun guy, likable, and we get along really well. I'm from Kailua, went to Kailua High School, public school all the way. I never went to college. I was what I call a first highest in my class of University of Hawaii, because I didn't go to the university, but I went to the universe. Anyway, I'm a surfer. I was a shaper. I'm a worker. I'm a doer. And that's why I ran, to do stuff, maybe low-hanging fruits, things that like bad stop signs and turn signals, and being involved in taking over if BJ goes away to the mainland or wherever. So I'll do my part. That's it.
Definitely. Thank you. Thank you to all three of you. I'm actually a Kailua High School grad, so can relate.
Smart, huh?
No, I'm dumb sometimes. But so I want to go over some special rules, because normal debates, there's usually some. I feel like there's a lot of disorganization, especially people talking over each other, and certain things. Of course, everybody has a response to something. So I just have some special rules that I think will be very good for our talk story Q&A today. So number one. Sorry, give me a second. Number one, no negative comments or comments belittling other candidates' comments, even if they're not present here today. So I don't think we're gonna have a problem with that, of course. Number two, each candidate can choose to answer or pass on any question. There are no time limits. But of course, the best answers are usually seen to be straightforward and concise. And then number three, which is something completely different than other debates or forums and stuff, is I will allow each candidate to have a build-on statement or an idea that they want to build off of another candidate's answer. So let's just say, for example, if Mr. Tupa'i says a response to a question I ask, and then each candidate, or Rob or Mr. Tae Kim, can do a build-off or a build-on response or a statement that expands that idea even more, and creates a bigger plan, And the purpose for these rules is to encourage teamwork, because a lot of times when you're in any kind of teamwork setting, or when you're working with other people, you're gonna either agree or disagree with people, and it's important to be able to hear everybody's thoughts and be able to think critically and creatively to figure out a solution. And then it also encourages collaborative work, because like I said, there's people you're going to be agreeing with or disagreeing with. But in this sense, I feel like we're very collaborative. So this is be a good session to be able to share your answers, especially with each other. You guys can build off of each other. So any questions? Nope. All right. So without further ado, let's get to the questions. These are questions that I actually asked the three of you to kind of do some research beforehand. These are questions kind of pertaining to every island, because of course every island is affected by these three questions. So we'll start with you, Mr. Kim. So the first question is, a few duties of the lieutenant governor position include being the assistant chief executive to the governor, being appointed, responsibilities and duties assigned by the governor, acting as governor in the absence of the governor, and being the Hawaii Secretary of State. If elected, what are 2 ways you hope to elevate the position?
Well, thank you for the question. First of all, let me try to answer the office of Lieutenant Governor being equal or in conjunction with the office of the governor. In that respect, just real briefly, there are other jurisdictions, other states that could have Democrat governor and a Republican lieutenant governor. Hawaii is set up where you cannot have a lieutenant governor and a governor from different party. And I think that needs to be addressed at some point. Maybe not at this election, but at another time, by the people, informed by the people, benefit, pros and cons of it. Now, whether the governor be BJ or Duke or Heidi, I believe Lieutenant Governor's office is separate and apart. Lieutenant Governor is not elected or selected by the governor. Lieutenant Governor's office is elected by the people. So Lieutenant Governor answers to the people first and foremost. If there's anything that the governor does that Lieutenant Governor, that I myself disagree with, people would know about it. I will not blindly go along with it for the sake of being in the same party or same office or being some sort of a team. Of course, as a Lieutenant Governor, you're assigned work from governor and you follow through the best you can. As a Secretary of State, of course, you take notes and you comply with your job. But we must not forget, as a Lieutenant Governor, we answer first and foremost to the people first. We answer to the Constitution and we answer to the people first. And in that sense, I would add that I would not seek a second term. I would not seek the highest office. People said that I'm not being genuine about it, but I'm telling you, and I've always said it, I'm put it in this podcast before you, Gavin, and before my fellow candidates. It'll be first term, one term, only term would be enough to do my service and leave. And possibly the next generation or next person would pick up where I left off. And I think 4 years of service to the state and the country that I love should be enough for anybody. And in that sense, I would not be bound to any party, any person, any political agenda, keeping some sort of a job interest, as most politicians do. They would pretty much do anything to keep their job, even break their moral code, ethical code, whatever they need to do. I can promise that as a Lieutenant Governor, my job answers to the people first and foremost, and abide by the Constitution of State of Hawaii and U.S. Constitution first and foremost. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kim. Junior or Mr. Burns, do you guys have any build-on statements to that? To Mr. Kim's response?
I can add on a little bit. Like he said, Article 1, Section 1 of our state constitution, all political power of this state is inherent in the people, and the responsibility for the exercise thereof rests with the people. It doesn't rest with the executive branch or the legislative branch. It literally rests with the people. But part of that goes to Article 1, Section 2 of our state constitution, where these rights of life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, the acquiring, possessing of property will not endure in our state unless the people recognize their corresponding obligations and responsibilities. It's the people's obligation, responsibility, and duty to put the right people in office. They're going to push the right policies and regulations that are going to benefit and support and defend those three rights: life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, which has not been done for decades here in Hawaii. So it behooves the people to actually research the candidates and put us in there, put the right people in there that are going to resonate and reflect the will of the people, not the will of special interests or private interest groups or big money or big tech or big pharma, because they're not for Hawaii. We got to put Hawaii first. And these people, we've heard the same speeches the past, how many decades now. Talk is cheap, enough with the rhetoric. Put people in, they're going to actually put feet to their actions.
Yeah.
Thank you, Junior.
I agree with everything he's just said. I would say that he is on the right track. We're all on the right track. We're not here for the party. We're not here for the Republican Party. In fact, I just became a Republican. And if there was an independent party, I would have been in it, but there was none, so I wasn't. But I think that the Democrat Party has lost its direction by thinking of the party first. Party matters, people don't. And the problem with the party here in Hawaii is that they have deep obligations to the party in the mainland, and so they take the orders from the mainland. And maybe Mr. Kim doesn't know, but Tupa'i knows that I don't take orders from anybody. It's just, I like to do the right thing. I like to do what suits me, and I won't say for sure, but I'm not running to get into the governor's position. I plan on doing 4 years and trying to get somebody in to take my place, to change the trajectory of the islands. The islands, I think, are going downhill with mindless decisions and solutions. So that's where I stand on that question.
Awesome. So yeah, we can continue going down the line. Mr. Tupa'i, do you have any? You want to answer the question? If elected, what are 2 ways you hope to elevate the lieutenant governor position?
Yeah, for us, Hawaii, we're one of 3 states that does not have a Secretary of State. Therefore, the LG should have the purview of, or pretty much in essence, is a Secretary of State. One of those things with the Department of Accounting and General Services, one of the 13 attached agencies is the Elections Office, which the chief elections official is appointed by the governor when it should be underneath the purview of the LG. And we need to fix our elections where we need to outlaw the drop boxes, outlaw the mail-in ballots, absentee ballot only by request, have a valid voter ID. We should all open up the precincts. If we got to make them smaller, less than 1,000 people. The money that was going towards the elections office, divert that towards all these precincts. You know, it shouldn't be election week, election month. It should be election day. Make that day a holiday. And then, you know, if 1,000 people can line up and do a COVID test, 1,000 people can line up and vote in person. And if we have the smaller precincts, we can count out all those paper ballots, take away the HART machines, the election, you know, electronic machines, and just count the paper ballots. And by that night, on the nightly news, we can have, you know, the winners announced to where people can have trust and faith, you know, once again in the elections process. Because the elections is one of 3 mechanisms that protects the people from the beast known as the government, which is the elections, the trial jury, and the grand juries. Those 3 mechanisms were instituted to protect the people from, you know, government overreach. And if the elections are not, you know, valid, or a lot of people have a lot of questions, that there's not full transparency with the people, they're not going to have full faith in that stuff. So we need to, that's one thing I would look to do. The second thing is just have maybe a quarterly or maybe even twice a quarter, like a fireside chat or something, to where have like a open town hall to where people can come in and have full transparency what the government is trying to do, what they're trying to implement. And a lot of times people just want less government, want less bureaucracy. You know, we have 31 departments and agencies. What is over 150, whatever, like 170 boards, and it's too much government. And so we want people to have full transparency and to see what's going on, where their money's going. That's a whole nother story. So yeah, those are 2 things I'd like to see.
Thank you. Mr. Kim, would you want to add on to Junior's statement?
Yes, thank you very much. I think what Mr. Tupa'i has suggested is an excellent idea. I mean, I cannot agree more. That'll definitely elevate the Lieutenant Governor's office and make use of the Lieutenant Governor's office much more than, and again, this is not derogatory in any way, but Lieutenant Governor's office in the history of Hawaii has always been in the shadow. They've never taken a leadership role. They pretty much stayed in the shadow, hoping that they'll get their endorsement for governorship. They'll jock their position, they'll make friends, but they will stay out of limelight just because in fear of what they're really after. So Lieutenant Governor's office is much more than that. You're not in the shadow of any office. You're not in the shadow of governor. Like I said in my opening remark, you answer to the people. You answer to the Constitution. You answer to people that have elected you to do the best job you can. And as a Lieutenant Governor, you gotta get out there, voice with the people, listen to the people. There are 33 communities on the island of Oahu, and there are many more on neighbor islands. As a Lieutenant Governor, you would need to visit them, listen to the people's concern, and bring it back to the Capitol and share it with the legislators. This is what people's concerns are. What are we doing about it? And share ideas back to the people. So primarily being an intermediary for the people and the state capitol. And let's get the work done. Let's get the job done. Not talking about it or pushing it back to next legislator or saying that it's not your department or it's not your constituents. We're all your constituents. Every island, people from Molokai to Kauai to Kona, we're all your constituents. And as a Lieutenant Governor, you have to play a more active role. Instead of saying, you know, am I going to be reelected? Am I going to get another endorsement? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kim. Mr. Burns, would you like to add anything to Tupa'i's answer?
I think so, and that is that I agree with what they've both said, and I think that I have the capability of it because I used to own locomotion, and I have to. I had a broad audience to purchase my products, so I didn't want to get to this or to that, and I have a natural ability to feel what people want before they know it. So Steve Jobs once said, he says, people don't know what they want till they see it. And I've always felt that, and that I can tell what they need or they want before they need or want it. And I want to do what's best for them and not the party. I mean, I can get along with the party, any party that I'm with, but the policies of the Republican Party are well within the spectrum of my acceptance, and the Democrat one isn't, and it's getting further and further away. So I feel it's going to be an easy job for me to do that, and I want to share whatever I've learned a lot in business, and I know that I think Kai was talking to Vicky Cayetano about on-the-job training, and I mean, the hardest part of, in my opinion, and I haven't been in office before, but in politics is getting elected. But once you get elected, then I think it's easy to do because you just work with a few people, and basically you don't deal with the people. And it's very difficult, and it's the complete opposite when you're in business. And anybody that's in business, like Vicky Cayetano, is, in my opinion, leaps way ahead of the politician, because the politician uses other people's money, doesn't spend it like his own, can't go out of business, and they don't care about the people because they're not their customers. Their customer is their party, and that's what they belong with. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Burns. All right, so actually, Mr. Burns, would you want to answer you? And you can choose to pass, of course, as well. But would you want to answer the question about if elected, what are 2 ways you hope to elevate the lieutenant governor position?
Well, I think I'll take a stab at that. What I see is I'm very frustrated with minor, small things that average people would be annoyed with, such as stupid things like signs and lights and things like that. There's a lot of things that they just do them wrong, and because it's already done, they just keep it like that. And it doesn't take money, it takes imagination, and it takes someone to want to do it. And that's what I want to do, and that's how I would elevate. And when I leave office, they're going to say, at least the lights got changed, at least the arrows got painted over and whatever. So they got something out of me, and they'll enjoy it.
Thank you. Mr. Kim, would you want to add on to what Rob said?
Yes, thank you. I think what Rob is conveying as to getting things done instead of leaving the office with, lack of better term, half-ass, not getting anything accomplished, just talking about it. I think what Rob is proposing is an excellent positive move that's long overdue, that we must not just think about it or have a meeting about it or we'll get to it. So many bills have been pushed back sessions after session. There are immediate needs that people wanted fixed. There are people from neighborhoods that are screaming for change, signs included, definitely. And why aren't the lawmakers listening? And as a lieutenant governor, you should take proactive role, and take it to the people that point them out, which legislators are opposed to it or not doing it. And tell the legislators, listen, we need to get it done. And not worry about, as Rob said earlier, being reelected or job security or making a favoritism or siding with a party. No. The office is all about benefiting the people. Law is not there for us to serve the law. Law is to benefit the people, and people are here to benefit each other. So we must get things done. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kim. Mr. Tupa'i, would you want to add on to Mr. Burns' response?
No, I agree with all of it.
Okay.
Yeah. Awesome.
Thank you,
I actually
gentlemen.
like what he said though
Mm.
about being beholden to party instead of being beholden to the people. Should be allegiance should lie primarily with the people first. Echoing what Ty was saying too.
Mm-hmm.
Can I add to that? I just feel like I've been to so many meetings and the decisions are already made, and it's almost like it's waha. My mother would always say waha, 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 and it's just you're just talking. It's just talk. And I go to these. I do my homework. I go up and I check out parks and stuff like that, and I come with good ideas, and they go, oh, okay, and they waste a lot of money, and they waste a lot of our times with the legislature. They don't do what they want to do, and then they have them there for 5 months, and then they say no, or they do it just because they want the burato, they want to get some money out of the deal or whatever. It's terrible, but I made my own money. I don't borrow money from anybody. I use my own money for my campaign. I don't solicit donations. If somebody says they want $100, I'll take $100. If they say you want $10,000, I'm not taking it, but I'll take $100. And because my budget is under 10,000, and I'm just about at that, and I'm not buying anything else. So I'm serious about it.
Thank you, gentlemen. We'll go on to the next question. This one's more of a direct question, but the question is, and I'll start with Mr. Kim. Which Hawaii department do you think has been inefficient with their funding sources, and how do you plan on changing that?
Over the years, over the decades rather, it takes so long to get anything done with infrastructure. Rail is taking us, 30, 40 years? We've been talking about rail since 1970s, early 1970s. And how many mayors did we go through before anything get done? I know mass transit is Honolulu issue, but as a state government, we need to help out. We need to get things done. This is costing people on this island, as well as a neighbor island, a lot of taxes, and we're wasting it. How many years they would take to build H3? 20, 30 years to build H3. So to your question of which department, I think all departments needs to take responsibility and work in concert. We cannot exclude Department of Land and Natural Resources from tourism because they're saying it's not our kuleana, it's your kuleana, it's your responsibility. All the department heads, it's their responsibility to work together and to get things done. But I believe Department of Transportation, Highway Safety, really take lead role and take charge in getting things done. Whatever needs to be done, getting things done, not just talk about it or prolong it. And the members of these boards, year after year, they're the same members. It involves same group of people that the politicians, the establishments, if you will, have selected. And they just rotate them, whether it's, on a city level or a state level. These boards, commissions, they're being elected to these positions. They're just holding them there, and they're not getting anything done. We don't need to recycle these individuals. We need new voices, new faces, people that actually gets work done. So your question of which department has committed most waste, to me, all of them falls equally to blame, but I do believe we can do better by not recycling these individuals to police commission, Department of Transportation, Department of Agriculture, Department of Tourism. We need new faces, people that actually gets done, and have a term limit to these appointments so that if they don't get it done, hey, find somebody else who will. Not replace them or not cut in pay or no pay. Again, I'm not trying to point or single any individuals out, but you cannot expect this change doing the same thing. There is that saying that everybody knows. How do you expect a change doing the same thing? And I think they referred to it as insanity, doing the same thing over and over, year and year, expecting a change. So we do need change. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kim. Mr. Tupa'i, would you want to add on to Mr. Kim's statement?
Yes, that was an excellent response. I do think as far as the appointed boards, whatnot, those should be elected by the people. That would help actually cut down on all the people just sitting in these chairs doing nothing. You know, he said it, Insanity is doing the same thing, expecting different results. We've had the same people in there. Those positions should be elected by the people, whether the Board of Education, whether the sheriffs. We need elected constitutional sheriffs in the different counties. I mean, a lot of this, we need to put the power back in the hands of the people, that the people should make the decisions, not just a select few individuals that are the same recycled incumbents, whatnot. Yeah.
Thank you. Mr. Burns?
Well, I might divert from going along with them on this one only because there's a lot of people that don't want to get involved in policing themselves and government. And so they hire people like us because we're supposed to be involved like we say we're going to be. The problem is that there's the people that they have hired in the past don't get involved and don't care about the results for the people. But I myself, I used to watch the Board of Education people. They had the signs out, you know, like, you don't even know what they are. I mean, they got an apple, bite out of the apple. You know, like, what? So what? You know, that's a good, good sign. But I don't know that that's going to help us. I think it's going to say, well, I didn't have anything to do with it. There was the people, they hired her. And so I think, honestly, that we should hire the people, but we're the people that they're hiring. We're their vote takers, and they talk to us, and that's why it's so important to converse with us and to look into our eyes and to see us so that they know what kind of people we are. And I wouldn't say what we're going to do, but what we've done. Because everyone can say, oh, well, look into that, or, all these different sayings of diversion, and they don't do anything. And next time, if I get elected, I'm going to take care of that problem. Well, they started the problem, and they left the problem, and now they're going to start it. Why didn't they fix it already? And I never hear them say, I'm sorry, I didn't have an answer for that. I was surprised to find out this, and whatever it is. And it's kind of disappointing to me that when you can blame it on somebody else, and I think that somebody has got to say the buck stops here. And politicians don't like to say, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. And that's what they've made, a lot of mistakes, and they always blame it on somebody else. And I'm not that type of person. I would like to say, you need to do this better while you're here, instead of like when I'm trying to get another job, And I don't need a job. I don't want a job. I didn't really want to do this whole election thing, but I felt I had to because nobody else was doing it. I would sit down with people, talk about, hey, who's a good guy for governor? Yeah, I mean, it's hard to, because you got to have, in Hawaii, you got ethnic, you got, education, you got party, there's a lot of things, to be able to catch the eye of everybody and get elected, it's difficult. And I think I have that because I'm haole, because I'm Hawaiian, because I'm a local. I never lived anywhere else. I think I have that, and I think these guys have that too. But somebody's got to step up and do it. And I think that we have said that we are ready to do it for the people and not the party and not the party's success. And I can say I've been wrong a lot of times, but I've been right more than wrong times. When you're in business, you got a business if you make too many wrong mistakes. So that's where my strength is.
Thank you, Mr. Burns. All right, so Mr. Tupa'i, same question for you. Which Hawaii department do you think has been inefficient with their funding sources, and how do you plan on changing that?
I actually agree with what Ty said earlier. I'm good.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd like to say something about that. I agree with everything he said, but I'd like to add, building department. It starts the whole process of construction and homes and so forth, and only 5% of our land is built on. I mean, we got a lot of mountains, but we certainly got some valleys and stuff. We could do a better job, and we need to speed up the process. I'm in real estate. I have known many a developer that said, it's taken me 12 years. I'm not making any money. I never will do this again. That's the wrong thing. And I do believe that we're going towards Singapore or mainland, like go up, buildings, put a rail in between. That's not Hawaii. In my opinion, it's half-acre lots, grow some food, park your cars, just like old-style Hawaii is what attracted people here. And now we're trying to get more organized and try to do stuff that they're doing in the mainland and Singapore and so forth. And I don't think that's the right vision of most people, visitors and locals.
Thank you. You guys have anything to add to Mr. Burns' statement?
Just briefly on the building issue. I do agree there's a whole bunch of waste in building and permitting. Why are we allowing these big construction companies to invest and build $1 million condos? Kaka'ako alone in Honolulu, they're putting up 20 plus condos, and they're all $1 million plus. How is that benefit the local people? How is that benefit affordability? $1 million, $1.2 million for one bedroom condo in Kaka'ako? It makes no sense. But the building and zoning approve it time and time again, never fails. If you go walk down Ala Moana, at any given day, you see 2, 3, 4 condos going up, 40, 50 stories, each one worth starting $1 million a unit. No more than the size of, yesterday's garage, 300 square feet, and you're paying $1 million for it. And of course, the construction workers or construction industry rather, are saying we're happy to do it because it benefits the union. I don't know if it benefits the local people in building that. We cannot afford it. It's not for us. It's for foreign investors who don't even occupy these units, more than a few months out of the year. So these construction companies getting permit for 20 plus condos in Kaka'ako, you have to be suspicious. Who's approving it? Who does it benefit? Who's getting any kickback? I'm not saying there are, but we have to investigate. Why are we keep investing or allowing this to happen? When we're a shortage of homes, homeless people everywhere, local people moving away to buy a home and get a job, and we're allowing these, again, construction companies, and most of them are big donors. I bet they're big donors to politicians. There has to be some tie over there. And even with the mass transit, some of the construction companies that are involved with mass transit, our Honolulu Rail, they're building homes. They're building $1 million, hundreds of $1 million condos. One has to be a little suspicious about how they're tied. So building and zoning, Department of Building and Zoning, and who's allowing it, there really is no oversight. Because whenever you see these condos go up, it makes you wonder, who's paying for these? Who's buying these? Who's affording these? So in that sense, I do believe with what Rob had said about the building and zoning needs to be revisited and investigated, actually. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kim. Mr. Tupa'i, would you want to respond?
Yeah, actually, I just saw something today on the Grassroots Institute saying pretty much the permitting department, they were understaffed by 160 people, I think. That's why it takes about 6 months to a year just to even get the permits. Unless you're a developer that, pays to play, then you get to the front of the line and you get, the have it your way, McDonald's, instantly, a permit pops up, But I think what Ty had mentioned earlier, even with the affordability here, you look at, say, like things like the Jones Act, which they've known for decades, but they'll never address it, having to do with the unions, whatnot, whole nother subject. The other thing, what he's talking about, even with the taxes here, the general excise tax to the income tax, I think our income tax is 11%, which is second only to California at 13.3%. Like, people can't afford that here. You got 2, 3 families living in each house, working 2 to 3 jobs just to survive here, living paycheck to paycheck, and if they miss one paycheck, that leads to homeless or houselessness. That's a huge thing here too. Like, all this stuff. So when you go to hear these different debates and these forums, they're talking about these solutions, but they've all been in office for decades. It's like talk is cheap. We got to solve this stuff. Even with the whole zoning, the land use policy, which is double layered at the state and the county level. How about simple things? Just eliminate one of the layers. It dropped the affordability down, but they're not doing none of this. Why aren't they entertaining or having these dialogues to where we can come to something that's going to benefit the people? And they're not doing it.
Thank you, gentlemen. All right, next question. And we'll have Mr. Tupa'i actually start this time. The current minimum wage in Hawaii is $10.10 an hour. While the estimated living wage for a single adult with no children living in Hawaii is $22.69 an hour. Recently, HB 2510 has been enacted in which Hawaii's minimum wage will gradually increase to $18 an hour until January 1st, 2028. Do you think this is the current solution to tackling the cost of living issues in Hawaii? And what else is needed to be done in order to make it sustainable for families to make Hawaii livable?
Awesome. Great question. I've spoken to several small businesses. Small businesses make up 99% of the businesses here in Hawaii. And all of them has unanimously said, do not raise the minimum wage. They can't afford it. Because once you raise it, they're going to have to fire one or two of their employees. They're going to have to start working even more. Then the price of their product goes up. And now, and of course, once they raise the minimum wage, everything else is going to raise. All the products, the different amenities that people provide to businesses. They said they can't compete with that. I mean, that goes back to federal now with the inflation. You can see with the gas prices. I mean, it's all affecting Hawaii. We need people asking to defend Hawaii. When they go to D.C., are they fighting for us, or are they beholden to other groups? I mean, it's a symbiotic cycle that it's cyclical in nature, and it's suppressing the people. So when I talk to these business owners, even with, say, like, for example, I talked to a gentleman from Waipahu, the Filipino produce store. They have 3 different Jimmy's produce store, 3 different locations. He said their property tax have been going up because the rail tax, all these different all these different taxes. What does it say? Governments don't create wealth; they consume it. It's the people that create the wealth, and we need incentives like tax cuts to do it. These businesses, they need incentives. They're not getting it. They need more. How can I say this? Less regulation. If government, yeah, that's good. If government just step out of the way and let the businesses flourish, yeah. But a lot of these small businesses, they're totally against trying to raise the minimum wage. And the only people that are going to be able to do that is the big box office, the Walmarts, the Home Depots, the Targets, the Lowe's, all these people that are, and people say, oh, it's cyclical economy, that it's a circular economy. No. That money's going back to the mainland. It's not touching the geographical islands of Hawaii. And we have to put Hawaii first.
Thank you, Mr. Tupa'i. Mr. Kim, would you like to respond to that?
I agree as to what Junior said, the impact that it would have. It would have definite detrimental impact on small businesses. You're forcing small business owners to, you pretty much overburdening them to say, you have to pay your employee the minimum required by law, or you're breaking the law. So employees would have to cut the staff. Employer has to cut the employee staff or reduce their output. And that in turn, employers would have to have the customers pay more. And that would in turn reduce the number of customers, flow of traffic. It's not a very thought out process. Just because you're raising amount of minimum wage at a low income level is not a solution to prosperous. It's not a solution to fixing an economy. It's not a solution to inflation. It's not a solution to rise in prices. Just giving them more money. But where is this more money is going to come from? At the expense of closing businesses? At the expense of getting some handouts from federal government because there are no longer small businesses around, which would in turn raising taxes on local people, middle income, hardworking middle, low middle, upper middle, attacking the middle income. That's what it'll lead to, raising minimum wage without having really thought out where this money is going to come from. So
in terms of raising minimum wage, I think we need to really think about other revenues that we can tap into. Instead of shutting down small businesses by raising minimum wage, how state could have more revenue? I mean, this is a tourism-driven economy. Tourism alone is not cutting it. We need renewable. We need investment in infrastructure within the state of Hawaii. That we don't have to depend agriculture. We need to depend on land and the people and invest in people and the land. Not so much forcing businesses to take less profit and give their employees more money. Because what employer would operate any business at a loss just to pay their employee? And that's not sustainable. And that will not last. So the lawmakers, I mean, I don't know if this is a legacy or they want to say that they had contributed to raising minimum wage as some sort of a grand scheme of, look, Hawaii has the highest minimum wage, but Hawaii has the highest cost of living as well. They don't go hand in hand. Just because you raise minimum wage doesn't mean your level of income goes up. Doesn't mean the cost of living goes down. No, it'll just keep drive business to the ground. We have enough mainland corporations coming into Hawaii, buying up land, buying up spaces, building these big corporation businesses. You know, we no longer have these small mom and pop stores anymore. They're taken over by big corporations, Walmarts of America, Targets, Home Depots, Costco's. I mean, they're great, but at what expense? At whose expense? Mom and pop stores are dying out. You know, these big mainland corporations are coming in to take over. So to say that minimum wage should be doubled just to meet the cost of living, that's not sustainable. It'll very shortly. I think when we get out of this inflation, I hate to say, but my prediction is we're going to hit hard in terms of recession. And when we hit the recession hard, how are people going to pay for it? How is the state going to have the revenue to help people? So minimum wage, I don't believe, was really thought out, other than to say, you know, this is going to meet high cost of living, which it does not. And we certainly cannot sustain it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kim. Mr. Burns, would you like to respond?
I immediately called you back on this one because it doesn't make any sense. The more the government leaves businesses alone, the better it'll be. We were paying people any way we want to pay them, that we can get good people, and that's the way it should be. We're in the foxholes looking for people, gas stations, and with smiles and good attitude to work for a fair wage, and that could be $10 right now. It could be $12 right now. If we want to retain them, we have to pay what the market is and what they're worth to us. Because I could pay, I mean, when I was working as a kid, I was getting like less than $1.50 an hour. And, you know, when I did is I went out and got traded marbles, and I picked up bottles and traded them in for, you know, 2 cents or 5 cents, whatever it was. And that's what you got to do. It's never been easy. Life has never been easy in Hawaii. It's always been expensive. It always will be expensive. It's one of the fallacies that we're going to have cheap homes, lots of them, but none of them. You know, people want no more homes. They have too many homes around here. Well, we want some for us, but they got to be cheap. You know, it's like, come on, guys, you can't have it at all, you know. And that's the thing is, I'm a big proponent of big bucks people because you can invest in them. I think we should look to tax people for things that they buy, like visitors. Oh, we're going to take off the tax for food and medicine. Well, everybody got to eat, so keep charging them for the food. But the medicine, they don't come here to get medicine. They come with their own medicine, you know. So leave the medicine like it is. Charge money. It's a bad idea, and it's sad that, you know, it's like you're cheating. You're buying the votes from people say, oh, I'll give you $15, $20 an hour, you know. Like this guy said, I mean, it's common sense. You're going to fire one guy to, you know, to get the work done by one guy. Instead of having two people, you got to have one. And that's the fact. And you can talk about, oh, but, you know, you need these people. You need, you know, it's a fallacy. There's a lot of people that don't work 100%. And they might work 100% if they had to lose their job. So we should get out of the housing business. The government needs to get out of the housing business. We need to simplify things so that people can actually make money. There's nothing wrong with making money. It's, you know, some of the richest guys around give the most money to people, churches and so forth. So, like, for example, there's, hardware stores. Hardware stores, I remember when they were really pissed off because Home Depot was coming to town. Big box stores, Costco. Those guys make a 15% markup. It's minimal. I mean, I wish I could live on 15%, but they go on the volume. So there's a lot of ways to fix things. And the way that we're fixing them now is not the way to do it. It's the complete opposite. And that is jumping in and making up these numbers like, oh, it should be $22 in 2028 or whatever. You like say, who knows what's going to happen between now and then? It's crazy. And the more you raise the guy on the bottom, the more you got to raise the guy on the top. The more they raise the guy on the top, the less money you're going to make, period. It's a bad idea.
Thank you, Mr. Burns. Would you want to expand on the question? Because the question is still, do you think the correct solution is increasing the minimum wage, which you've
not at all. Not at all.
And what else is needed to be done in order to make it sustainable for families to make Hawaii livable?
Well, there's a ton of things. You know, like, for example, we build houses for 1,000 years with floods and hurricanes and everything. It used to be tofu blocks on the ground. You make any kind, you know. And it was inexpensive and fast. We could put up smaller, cheaper, faster houses. To, you know, I mean, people are living on the streets. I mean, on the sidewalks, in tents, in cardboard or whatever. So, you know, why are we trying to be all like, we want to be like California? Or, you know, we can't have everything. We can't have everything, and we need to understand that we can't have everything. That's what you got to tell your kids. You can't have everything. I had nothing. My parents didn't even have to tell me that. So, I mean, like, I got everywhere I wanted to go. I hitchhiked. I rode a bicycle with no tires. Someone threw it away. I just jump on it, ride it for 3 years until I got a car. You know, my dad gave me a car when I was graduated. But there's, you know, I mean, some of the richest people in the world, they started with nothing. No minimum wage, no this, no that. I worked at so many jobs, shaping surfboards for cheap, for, you know, making bags of cement, delivering flowers, whatever. You do what you got to do, and it always has been like that in Hawaii. And the sooner we get government out of our way, the more we'll flourish. And there's a lot of ways to do it, and you know, it's not a quick answer. You know, I wish I could just answer it. That's the broadest, fastest way I can say is keep government out of our business.
Thank you, Mr. Burns. Mr. Kim, would you like to expand on Mr. Burns' response?
You know, the people are always wary and always suspicious of government action. And I understand that because they're not really thinking things through to a common people. The actions that take, it sounds okay, but again, is it sustainable? Can it last? In principle, for the sake of addressing the people, it might sound sensible. Of course, if the cost of living is high, just give them more money. But is that sustainable? Where this money is going to come from? You know, you're just going to shut down small businesses.
pretty soon, local residents will own and operate nothing. And because we cannot sustain what the law is, what the government is telling us to pay. And in that sense, the government dictating what we should pay, who should get how much, without knowing individual businesses' circumstance, that's irresponsible. And in that note, I wholeheartedly agree with Rob and Junior.
Thank you, Mr. Kim. Mr. Tupa'i, would you want to respond to Rob's statement? You good? Mr.
Give him a hand first. Hey, this is the basic policies of Republicans, is to work hard, save your money, not get free stuff from the government. It's terrible. Sorry.
No, you're good. Well, we gotta keep the mic up to your chin.
Sorry.
No, you're good. Mr. Kim, would you want to expand on the question, which is, do you agree with the minimum wage increasing, and what else is needed to be done in order to make it sustainable for families to make Hawaii livable?
You know, again, I think we've all echoed the fact that minimum wage increase is a bad idea. It cannot be across the board, same for every small businesses, forcing them to pay what the government says they should pay. It's like, why not force the businesses to charge what the government wants them to charge? Why not have the government dictate when the business is going to open their business and close their business, who they hire? It's just regulations after regulations, conditions after conditions. It makes no sense. It's basically saying to the small business people, you know what, you guys are going to die out because we made it impossible for you to continue your business. Now, in terms of affordability, meeting the challenges of Hawaii's affordability, I think we can all agree that the biggest expense for any local resident is housing. Whether you're middle class, low income class, I would say anywhere between 75 to 90% of your paycheck goes to pay housing. We gotta do something about housing issue. And the politicians right now, the establishments, that's not their foremost importance because they're not addressing it. When was the last time a politician said anything about getting people off the streets? No, just give them a handout. Just give them a handout when they need it, and we'll just pass it on to next session. We cannot be a handout state. It's not gonna sustain us. We have to give people a better opportunity and a hands up. Give people an option to do better, not keep them status quo. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kim. Mr. Tupa'i, would you want to respond?
Yeah, just with the whole affordability thing, like families are trying to, they're concerned about, their kids in school. I mean, about even I get a lot of people that tell me this families are like, their older kids that go to college, they leave here, they never come back. They can't afford it here. And that's so sad because, this is one of the most specialist, the wonderful place in the world. This true spirit of aloha, like the family, just it's invaluable. It's priceless. You won't find this anywhere else. And the fact that people have to leave here, they don't want to leave. So I've met several families, they're like, they're hopeful. If one of us gets in and, we get this, a change in the state, a lot of them they're going to stay.
Or come back.
Or come back, yeah. Or come back. And I don't know, it's just so much happening in the state that, they focus on the minor a lot when there's a lot of things out there that should be the major. And like, Ty was saying, a lot of these politicians, when's the last time you rode a public, bus? When's the last time you were stuck in traffic going to West Side to Waianae and all the potholes and stuff that you guys are putting towards something else instead of investing in the infrastructure? Like, I talked to a lot of aunties, like, I ride the bus. It used to be 4 buses an hour. Now it's only 2 because everything's going towards the rail. And I got to sit there, and sometimes you don't know these, some of the transients or drug users coming around. It's like crime going up. I mean, you just hear that guy just got his hand cut off at the 7-Eleven, or the person, like, it's just crazy. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Tupa'i. Mr. Burns, would you want to add on to Ty and
Well, I think we're all saying the same
Seaula?
thing. And the problem is the solutions are not well thought out, and they're more like you're giving some burato to the people. Say, oh, I care about you. You're going to get $22 an hour. You know, they're not doing anything about training them in schools and learning how automotive and carpenters and stuff. No, they're just thinking you got to go to school. You got to got to go to college, and you got to wear a mask, and all this kind of stuff. It just doesn't make sense. It should be illegal. It's heartless, and if people would see through the facade that giving stuff away is not the way to fulfill yourself. You give yourself. You make enough for yourself, and then you give some to somebody else, and that's the that's the Hawaiian way, And people don't want to leave here, and they want to come back here as soon as they can because the people here are different, and when you see the difference, when you go to another place, everything might be cheaper, but they just don't think like we do. And my wife lived here 60 years. She's 65. I've been here my whole life, and I was raised with Hawaiians in Kailua when Hawaiians were in Kailua, and it was all about sharing. And when you go somewhere else, they all come back. They say, "Oh, it's not the same." You go to a party, there's chips, and there's only a little bit chips, like nobody busts out food, and it's completely different. They want to come back, and they should come back. And there's a lot of things that I know that I can't go into detail now because it'll bore you to death. But I happen to know a lot about numbers. I know how many people have left in the last few years. I know how much it costs to live here. And, I'm going to give you one good example. It's super easy. Rent a house, and the rent goes up. The mortgage property, the property value goes up because the government raises the rate. So in other words, say they're paying $3,000 a year. They make it $6,000 a year and say, make it cheaper for these people that want to rent. Doesn't work that way. You should give them incentives and say, hey, these people, I'm going to keep your house at $3,000 a year instead of raising it to $6,000. But they do the complete opposite, the wrong thing to do. And that, I shake my head and I'm just thinking, like, why would anybody raise the rent on rents to the owners of the property? Like that's a smart thing to do. It's crazy. I've rented my whole life until I started buying. And, they never raised the property value, property fees. And so that's just a perfect example of doing stupid things that it looks like you're trying to do something, but you're doing the opposite.
Thank you, gentlemen. Just for, we're going to move on to some community questions, maybe 2 or 3, but just for time, since we're kind of tight on time, I'm just going to ask the question and then go to each of you. So I'm just going to pick 2 or 3 I have over here. This one is, so we'll start off with Mr. Tupa'i again. How would you improve our education system in Hawaii other than increasing the salaries for teachers?
Yeah, I am a strong proponent in school vouchers. I think the money should follow the kids. And a lot of parents, they're like, you know what? I don't like what they're teaching my kids in the schools. And, that goes to HB 1697, 2125. If you don't know about that, check those out. But it's crazy what, the kids have been learning. And the other side is I feel sorry for some of the teachers. Now, it goes back to the teachers union. That's a whole nother subject. But to improve the education system here, for now, what I'm saying is the money should follow the kids, that it should not stay at a school, because a lot of these programs and initiatives that they're pushing, it's not what the parents want to see. with their kids. We got to protect the innocence of the keiki. Yeah. And there's a lot of initiatives that are going to be pushed out even next year in legislation that I know a lot of parents are strongly against. And yeah, there's a lot of stuff that needs to change.
Thank you, Mr. Tupa'i. Mr. Burns, how would you improve our education system in Hawaii other than increasing the salaries for teachers?
Well, I think that, well, first of all, I want to say something. Even though I was a bad student, I was a bad student because I didn't like school. And when I didn't like school, I rejected everything, reading and everything. I mean, I'm pretty smart. Actually, I am pretty smart, but I just didn't like school. And I don't like regurgitating what someone tells me. I don't think it's smart, and I don't think it's right, because who knows what the information is. Now it's bad information. So I would say the school systems, I happen to know charter school people pay they get 1/3 as much money as a regular school gets, and they get better results. It's not the money. I used to race paddle, canoe race, and everybody used to complain, oh, Outrigger Canoe Club, they got food, they got boats, they got training stuff, blah, blah, blah. I say, hey, let's lick them, we can lick them anyway, Don't get in a pity party. And we won every race, we broke every record to this day. Because we never, ever said, pull harder. How come they do this? No, we can do it. The schools have enough money. I happen to know fast numbers, not as much as Tupa'i does, but, there's 10,000 teachers, roughly. If they get $100,000 each, that's $1 billion. If you put $2 million into every school, there's 250 schools, that's $500 million. So with a budget of, let's just say, $2.5 billion, there's $1 billion laying around. We're in the top 10%, 11% of paying for like outrigger, good stuff. But we're wasting the money. We're number 47 on the results. It's shameful, and it's going to keep on going on unless we change it. And I'm going to change that because I care about education, but it's not all that people think. And that's what the problem with kids is. If they're not good at school, they get low self-esteem. But if you get a chance, read a book called The Millionaire Next Door. It's an easy book to read, and it's about C students that are most of the millionaires. And then they can give their money away, whatever they want to do, they do. Because, here's a perfect example. What I used to tell everybody in my office, I know exactly what rich people like to wear. They say, what? I say, yeah, I tell you exactly what they want to wear. They say, what is it? And I said, anything they want to. That's the truth. They don't care. They don't care if they dress like me or dress fancy. They got nice clothes somewhere, but they don't wear them. They want to be down low. And that's the way schools need to do, is they need to not worry about being all that the mainland schools are. Do better than the mainland schools. Do better, take care. If they have to get the people to paint the school, paint the school. But don't do without just because, you have to have union painters that are doing it or whatever, I mean, you just got to do with what you got to do. And that's what they did in the old days. They made it happen with what they had.
Thank you, Mr. Burns. Mr. Kim, how would you improve our education system in Hawaii other than increasing the salaries for teachers?
I'm gonna be a little scrutinized by Rob and Junior here, but this is my thought. They'll probably disagree with me, but this is my thought. If there's enough revenue in the state of Hawaii, if we do get around to it with this establishment, having more revenue source for the state, other than tourism, which is significantly under funding the state revenue, it's not cutting it. Once we have other sources of investment, to increase the state's revenue, I'd like to see every teacher getting a six-figure start. We have to be competitive and attract the best teachers. Having said that, while we're not there, I believe every keiki, whether it's kindergarten, elementary, middle school, or high school, we cannot just send them off to school and have the school and teachers take care of them and hoping that they turn out well and they learn well. Parents, we have to get involved. Each individual parent, mom, dad, with grandparents as parents, they have to do their part to make sure their keiki gets learn the right stuff, the correct way, and be an active participant within the teacher. And we need more public-private contribution to our public education to fund the needies with, as Junior said, vouchers, if you will, for the kids who can't afford, for the supplies that the teachers need. And I still believe there are a lot of teachers out there using their own money to pay for keiki's supplies, school supply, pencil, paper. It's ridiculous. When was the last time current administration, current lawmakers have actually tackled these issues of improving teacher, improving school, improving the students? I can't remember it. Everything's been, again, I hate to sidetrack, but for the last 2-3 years, everything's been focused on COVID and locking things down and remote learning and being afraid to be in the public. You gotta wear masks, double the layer, get all these shots. That's what we've been concerned about. And that's what the past, current, and soon to be the last administration have been doing. That's all. We gotta tackle these fundamental community issues. So again, I do believe we need to do more. Lawmakers have to step up. We cannot expect school to run by themselves or improve by themselves. We need to have family involved, whether it's aunties, uncles, grandma, grandpa, mom and dad. Come on, you gotta get involved to make school better within your district for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kim. Thank you, gentlemen, for your response. I'll go with one more question. We'll start off with Rob, actually. So if a Republican governor gets elected and decides to cut taxes for businesses and high-income individuals, would you support the tax break, or would you support tax breaks for middle and lower-income individuals instead?
Well, first of all, I wanted to say that I don't disagree with you, because I was using $100,000. That's six figures. But, they don't give them $100,000. They give them 45, 50, 55, 60. You crawl up the ladder. They don't teach you how to take care of your own money. If they knew how to do that, they should do their own money. They don't. So they give it back to the unions, and the unions give it to their friends. Exactly. So, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
I was thinking about him.
No, don't worry about it. I'll just repeat the question. If a Republican governor gets elected and decides to cut taxes for businesses and high-income individuals, would you support the tax break, or would you support tax breaks for middle and lower-income individuals instead?
I think the tax breaks are across the board needed. The last time I looked, 10% of $1 billion was a lot more than 10% of 10,000. So, to take people with money and beat them up is not the right thing to do. These guys give more money away to kids and to good things, except for like Soros. But most of the people that are very rich, for example, what's his name? Hathaway. What's his name? That guy, supposedly the best investor in the world. Anyway, he said, they go, how come you don't just pay the taxes for and give the money to the government? He goes, well, I think my kids can do a better job investing it. And that's the truth. That's the truth. Taking more money from people, and I have some retarded kids myself. I have 2 retarded kids, And when I say retarded, I'm just using an old-fashioned word, but it is, they're not up to snuff. They can't read, write, do arithmetic. They got special needs, and they shouldn't be paying so much tax. They should pay less tax, and the guys in the middle should pay some tax, but not more than, it gets crazy once you start making really lots of money. What do you think you're going to do with it? You can't even spend it all. So they go buy junk, buy stuff, give money away. They'd spend money better than the government does. So taking it from them and giving it to the government is, the stupidest thing I have ever heard of.
Thank you, Mr. Burns. Mr. Kim, if a Republican governor gets elected and decides to cut taxes for businesses and high-income individuals, would you support the tax break, or would you support tax breaks for middle and lower-income individuals instead?
As I said earlier, Lieutenant Governor's job is not to blindly agree with Governor. With all due respect to whoever gets in the office, whether it's Penn or Iona or Heidi, if not just a tax issue, but if they say or do things that I believe is contrary to public good and public health and safety, I would speak up against it. And I know each one of us will as well. In terms of your question of tax break, again, this may not be traditional Republican value or what Republicans in the mainland in general, opinions, but I do not believe raising taxes for middle income under any circumstance. No circumstance. Middle income, we have to protect them. They're the backbone of our country, of our state. They work hard. They pay their taxes. They pay more than their share. And to tax them for the benefit of the rich or benefit of the poor, or just to make up for the rest of them, the corporations and whatnot, I'm 100%, without a doubt, no second thought, against it. Now, having said that, you cannot punish the rich for being rich. You cannot punish the wealthy and to say, because you're wealthy, we're gonna charge you more. You can pay more. Where does it say in the government or constitution that says government has the right to impose successful people from being successful, or nobody else will? This is a democratic country. The last time I saw it, this will be a democratic country tomorrow, today, 10 years from now, 1,000 years from now, God willing. So I'm for a fair share. And I'm not for punishing a successful business. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kim. Mr. Tupa'i, same question. If a Republican governor gets elected and decides to cut taxes for businesses and high-income individuals, would you support the tax break, or would you support tax breaks for middle and lower-income individuals instead?
Right. Thank you for that question. Before I answer, I just want to digress back to what
Of course.
Ty was saying. I agree with you, too, as far as the teachers' pay. Matter of fact, they should give the politicians' pay to the teachers. I mean, they're spending more time with the keiki. The keiki should be the priority. They should be first. Talking about that, too, even within the school to make it more exciting for the kids. How about maybe K through 5, they start teaching Olelo Hawaii to all the public schools so they can learn the culture. On top of that, come bring back vocational stuff for each different neighbor island, whether it's fishing, whether it's ag, and put that intrinsic value back into the kids so they actually have a connection to the land. But as far as the pay, yeah, teachers be getting paid more than the politicians. Matter of fact, politicians, they should entertain getting them paid hourly. Maybe not these many people be running for office anymore. But going back to the question, I believe Article 1, Section 2 of our state constitution, all persons are free by nature and are equal. Tax break for one, tax break for all. Should be across the board. Yep.
Can I say one thing about that?
Of course.
You got tax incentives, people talking about bringing in corporations to Hawaii. Oh, give them, like New York, tax-free. Hey, what about the guys that have been here for 100 years, I think that if you're going to do that for them, you should do it for everybody. The guys that are here in the trenches, like you said, they're the backbone of our society, small businesses. And to give, just to kind of sneak someone in for 10 years, you don't have to pay taxes. That's waha.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. Just as I want to go through each and every one of you, just to give like a closing remark before we Kampai, because we're on Kampai Sugai podcast. But actually, Rob, would you want to give a closing remark?
Well, my name is Rob Burns. I would vote for anybody that's Republican. Seriously. If I win, fine, I'm going to work my okole off. If I don't, I'm going to help. This guy's good. You know, whoever's in is in, and that's the people's choice. I'm running for the entire state. I've never lived anywhere else. I am part Hawaiian. My Haole side of the family came 1820. I have a deeper history than anybody that I know. From tearing down the heiaus, that was my family that tore. Heva, who was the right-hand man of King Kamehameha the Great. Those two guys on the Uamauke Hokaina Ikapono, that's my family. Namahoe, the twins. My mother were twins. The whole family was twins. The Washington Place was John Dominus's. He came with my guy in 1820, and they had the lease for Honolulu Harbor. They finished the house. I mean, the thing is, I almost know too much about the history of Hawaii. But I can tell you one thing, there's nothing better. There's no place better than here.
Thank you, Mr. Burns. Mr. Kim, would you like to do any closing remarks?
Yes, thank you very much for this opportunity. And thank you, Gavin, and to Gavin Significant. I forgot your name, sorry. Kelsey, okay, thank you. And again, it's my pleasure and honor to be here with Junior and Rob. This is my first time meeting them, and I'm impressed. I'm impressed by their statement. I'm impressed by their position, and I feel lucky to be part of their candidacy. And I just want to close by saying, if you can vote, please run for office. We gotta have ballot overloaded with non-established individuals, people who are not around to keep it for themselves and hand it down to people that they feel or they choose. Public office, let's get back to the basic. This is a country of the people, by the people, for the people. Not for individuals, not for a group of individuals that would dictate how things should be ran. Not for a group of individuals who handpick their people into these department heads and keep them there as long as possible for their own personal agenda. That's how it's been since statehood. Before statehood, as I can recall, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000, 2010, last 50 years I've been here, that's all I've seen. Same individuals occupying the same seats, doing the same way, delaying handouts versus hand up. Why there's no progress? Ask yourself. We cannot be doing the same thing with same people. If you're able to vote, voting is not enough anymore. Put yourself on the ballot. There are 400 candidates in this election, biggest number ever. Let's push for more. Let's give people more opportunity. And you have a voice. You have a voice to serve and have your opinion matter. Don't just follow blindly. Don't be complacent. This is not how it is. We can make a difference. You can make a difference. But I implore you, at the end of your term, please consider leaving for the next generation, for the next people, to take over where you left off. This is not a private enterprise. This is a public office. People get to decide. Not a private enterprise where you occupy as long as possible and handpick your product, people that would succeed you. That's not how this works. We've done that enough, and look at the state of our state. Please consider being on the ballot. Thank you. Aloha.
Thank you, Mr. Kim. Mr. Tupa'i, any last remarks for you?
Just thank you, Gavin. Thank you, Kelsey, for the opportunity to come here today. And then thanks to Rob and Ty just for running. I think Don Shula, the former head coach of the Miami Dolphins, he said it best. We get so much more done if we don't care who gets the credit. Whoever gets the nomination in 21 days, it'll be better than what we have right now. And I'm happy with that. Rob said it earlier, the state model, the life of the land is perpetuating righteousness. We need servants that are right standing with the people, servants that are beholden, and that their allegiances lie primarily with the people first. I keep quoting it, but Article 1, Section 1 of our state constitution, all political power of the state is inherent in the people. The power is still with the people that are listening to this program. It's not with the people in office. And the people put us in office. Give change a chance. Change is here. And if he's ready, let's do this in 21 days. Thank you again.
Thank you, Mr. Tupa'i. And for the guys that are on IG Live, I'm going to have to put my hand down because we're going to do a Kampai. So if you guys want to Kampai with us, please do. Okay, sorry for the cut there, guys. I had to put my phone down and we had to refill waters over here. But guys, gentlemen, this is to you. This is to your campaigns. This is to change in Hawaii. I think it's much needed, and I'm glad that I'm around gentlemen that really just want to seek change and really want change for Hawaii because, like I said, it's much needed. So, Kampai.
Thanks, Gavin.
Thank you.